Hi guys, this is Arunagiri. I am here with another podcast, and I'm really happy to have Savita Narasimhan. Savita Narasimhan, we have a lot of conflict of interest. She happens to be my friend from childhood in Delhi, and she also happens to be my music guide and a good friend. So there is a lot of conflict here. So, having said that, hi Savita, how are you?
Hi Arun, great.
You're a busy person. In Chennai, if I come, there is absolutely, between my Ola rides and your busyness, I don't think I have the time to even come and actually have a half hour class. So here, you have a lot more relaxed atmosphere. You've been touring the US, right?
Right.
How long has it been?
This is my 13th trip.
13th trip. And here, how long have you been in the...
This particular trip, I came in the first week of October.
Okay.
And I came with Justice Repertory, our production Fire and Ash. And I toured with Gauri Ramnarayan and Anjana Anand.
So the Justice Repertory you are one of the founders.
Founding members.
Of
Justice.
When did it start?
Started in 2004.
2004.
2004? Yeah, 2004.
So this is one of your first productions that you actually took it out of India.
Yes, this is the first Justice production that I have toured out of India with. Yes, we've travelled a lot within India for 3 other productions that I've sung for. But this is the first time in the US for a Justice production.
Oh, wow, great. So how many cities did you tour?
We had 9 shows, in 9 cities.
And I'm sure the response would have been really great, because I think the theme was pretty, at one level very philosophically high-flying. Shiva, at another level, it is a lot to do with mythologies and...
Yes, a simple thing. It was just trying to capture an ancient icon like Shiva and try to explain it and its relevance through all ages. And to say that the concept of Shiva, all our gods are nothing but concepts. How that concept is relevant today as a contemporary metaphor. So, and seeing it through the eyes of different poets who've seen Shiva variously as from a god to a friend to a lover to the Almighty.
Wow.
So that's what the whole production is about. It's not a bhakti, oh God, Shiva, save me. No. I mean, that's always an underlying message, but yeah, that's all.
Actually, I did see the YouTube video that you sent me a long time back. That was the lecture demonstration by Dr. Gauri Ramnarayan. I was completely blown away by how much research and what all ideas she has culled from Meera Bhajan and Surdas Bhajan, where Shiva comes with his jata.
Yes, that's one of my favorite pieces in the whole production, yes.
To the highest flights of Vedantic and quantum physics. It was just too much. I think in that one hour, she covered this entire gamut of things. I think, guys, check it out. Is the preview available or a video available? Where can are you guys planning to stage it again?
We're definitely staging it again.
Yeah.
In India for sure. I don't know outside India right now.
Okay.
But I'm sure video will be available soon also.
Okay.
As of now, I don't think there's any on YouTube.
Okay.
Unless somebody's put it up without our knowledge.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, having said that, of course, you've given your voice to that. There is a lot of recorded music.
It's the first time that I actually sing live with a recorded soundtrack. It is a different kind of a challenge. Very interesting in some ways.
It's like a karaoke track.
Yes, so you really have to be on your feet. You can't miss a single cue and you can't control your accompanist.
It's not like a narrow way where you can take 2 avartanams.
No, you can't.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the whole idea was Gauri's, because one, it makes it logistically easy to have a recorded soundtrack. And we just said, okay, why don't we try this once and see how it is. And surprisingly, it works just as fine as live music for musicians.
So you're not singing too many kacheris, right? So I'm coming to a point where my question, and I think a lot of people do ask. So Savita Narasimhan shows up in the Sadas. She grabs the award 4 years in a row, and that's it. The radar just goes down, and you don't find her again until December of the next year. So, why are you consciously trying to scale? Have you've been very selective. So, is there a reason behind it? You want to pursue music expressing in different ways, like justice? Is that a reason too?
See, it started with a small problem that I had with my voice by way of a very strained phase that I went through about 3 years ago. Started and very bad, where I really did have major problems. And both my doctors, allopathic and homeopathic, advised rest for at least a year or two. Because they said, you're not looking at it long term. You keep singing over this, you're just going to ruin it. So that set me thinking, and I did decide to take a break. And kind of kept it down to absolute minimum. I think I didn't sing more than half a dozen concerts that year. Started like that.
Oh, okay.
But somewhere along the way, I realized that.
So it was like you're recuperating mode,
yes.
And then it gave you other ideas too.
Yes. So what happened is, I came to a point where the days that I was singing concerts much more regularly, I would always practice every day and try to keep my voice in optimal state. That pressure I didn't have. So that itself brought down the strain a lot. And then I also realized that finally performing music really is just one aspect of music. It's a musician is a musician whether or not he performs or not. Performance is one venue. Of course, it's a different experience connecting with an audience, and that's a different ball game altogether. But you can still find a lot of venues to express yourself.
Like of course, justice is one.
Like justice is one.
Yeah.
But I'm saying that's where I got into my other absolute passion, which is painting.
We'll come to that.
So I found different ways to, and strangely, I didn't miss singing too many concerts. Strangely enough.
So it has come down, but now so you do. Of course, there's an academy that music academy that you always sing in, but then there are some very special, like you did a Padam Javali concert.
Because Padam and Javali are very close to my heart. And as I said, what happens now is that I try and rest my voice as much as possible. So I've become very selective about the concerts that I am going to get into, which doesn't mean that I prefer one organization over the other or anything like that.
Yeah.
It's just, it just works out like this. It just happens to be like this, that's all.
So let me, so when we're talking about academy, and then there is this very interesting critic and historian, V. Sriram. So he was tweeting away from your concert last year. I think you sang a Puvi Kalyani, RTP and Bhairavi main, Raksha Bettare. And he had some very interesting observations. Of course, the most comical was some, Mama doing a dance for Vishweshwara was very funny. But coming to his one particular tweet where he used the phrase weighty classicism in display. I think it's a phrase that's sort of often, I think we are in a situation, where people are throwing words around. They may or may not completely understand the deeper meaning behind it. So could you illustrate what a classicism in your experience is? Like if you take a raga, can a scalar raga be a weighty raga, or treated weightily, or how do you dilute a rakti raga, which has the rakti or the weight baked into it?
Right. So for me, when it comes to a concept like classicism, first let's deal with that concept.
Okay.
It's just a combination of two things. One is voice production. The second is the school of thought, musical thought that you follow. Okay. So if you see most of the traditional schools of music that have existed in Carnatic music, you will see that they all follow completely different styles in their own ways. They're all markedly different from each other.
As in vocal
music. I'm now talking only about vocal music.
Okay.
Because I'm a vocalist.
Correct.
I'm not talking about instrumental music. If you see all the most prominent schools of vocal music that have existed over the last 100 years, let's say, you would see that all of them are different from each other in very obvious ways. But the one thing that is common amongst all of them is this classicism. So, what is this classicism? It's nothing but sticking to a certain tradition that one has learned from one's guru, which has just basically come down the ages. And of course, our basic framework has already been laid by the compositions that have been handed down to us, and most of the so-called accepted parantarams of those compositions. And so the only thing that can be added to that is the way you deliver.
Vocalize.
Your input there, other than of course your musical thought and vision and imagination, is that vocalization.
So for instance, so if you can take a so this right. So which one? So the first.
It's talking about a combination of gamakams or a arutam, the punch that you give to a certain phrase.
So again, could you? I know there were four phrases that you sang. Just for our listeners' perception, can you earmark? So first phrase, let's say the arutam. The second phrase, same without, or a student who's still learning, they may not know the arutam part. How would
Okay, basically it's just okay.
That's the weighty.
It's not only a question of volume or that kind of thing. A way of, you see a phrase, how you deliver it, a punch that goes into it.
And this is obviously not a Rakti raga in a traditional.
So I did this particular ragam because you asked about scalar versus Rakti, right?
Correct.
So I'm getting to that. So for me, classicism is a combination of both. Of vocal technique.
Correct.
As well as the school of thought that, or school of music that you learn from. Weighty, that is the next, it's closely linked to this. But weightiness, weightiness depends a lot on vocalization. For example, when you say weighty music, some of the first names that come into your mind, Abrinda, D.K. Patamal, to some extent, of course, like I said, all the schools had their own weight, in their own ways. That is the beauty of all those schools. So, Roma Briga Shariramla Kuda GNB managed that weight and that punch and that thing that is so.
Aggression.
Weighty music is not necessarily only Gamakam music.
Okay.
Any music can be weighty. Again, depends on how you perceive it and how you vocalize it. So, that is weighticism. Weightiness in classicism. So, that is that.
Okay.
Coming to ragams and scalar ragams and rakti ragams, of course rakti ragams have a certain character to them, and this is so much more deeper than other things. It takes a lot of course, a good repertoire in a good style and a lot of introspection and a lot of practice to get that weight and punch and that mood. Now, the difference between scalar ragam and rakti ragams, of course, the obvious fact that you can go into the soul of the ragam in a rakti ragam. But for me, personally, one is not superior over the other.
One, as in the raga?
Yeah, the scalar or the rakti. They both have their own unique properties and individual beauty and have their own place in music. That's what I very firmly believe. So I don't subscribe to the theory that rakti ragams... you are a more classical musician if you can handle rakti ragams. True, rakti ragams handle pandrathu is not a joke. And it takes a lot of practice and a lot of, as I said, thinking about it and getting into the soul of it and all that, everything is there.
Yeah.
But that is only a part of music. Any music, when sung the way it ought to be sung, and if it touches your soul, has done its job. So I don't subscribe to the theory that only Rakti Ragams should be sung if you want to be known as a classical musician. Somebody like Brinda, I've heard other musicians who've known her a lot say that she once sang a Ranjani. She never sang a Ranjani on stage. She was always known for Bhairavi and Haryadufla Kambudi and Sahana and Saveri. But ஒரு நாள் ரஞ்சனி பாடிச்சா அந்த ரஞ்சனி அப்படி பாட முடியுமான்னு everybody was so shocked. So it's only about the musicianship.
Obviously her musicality, her vocalization that she probably has put in.
Yes.
In getting those ideas from singing those heavy, so-called heavy ragas, and her vocal technique has helped in bringing out.
Exactly. Can be translated to any ragam and to make any ragam sound weighty.
Correct.
Yeah. So it really depends on. That's why I said it depends on your musicianship and vocalization. To give that weight to a ragam.
So then what it means is that then if you want to develop a certain genre of your own or style of your own, it would seem like that you probably have to have a wide hearing listening to, but also very focused on maybe a few artists that have a similar style.
See, the first thing that starts off this whole thing of having your own individual style is a very keen awareness of your own weaknesses and strengths. Okay? And from that perspective of that awareness, from being aware, what style do you think is closest to what you can manage given your strengths and weaknesses? Okay? What is your expression of music? And the awareness. So basically the process of learning and practicing and everything is very analytical. There should be a lot of self-analysis, a lot of awareness, a lot of intuitive understanding of where you stand, what you can express, given this is how Carnatic music has to be expressed. Okay? And the mari irkacha, where do you stand? And which are the styles which touch your heart? Basically, it's just that.
Okay.
As I said, every musician was great. But there are some musicians, each one navigates to, obviously.
Yeah.
So what is it that attracts you?
I've learned that you take the best.
You take the spirit of the music, never the music itself. Because it can never be reproduced.
Yeah.
Because it is so unique to that musician's own work and thought and
that's the beauty of Indian classical music too, right? I mean, it's so forgiving of if you bring that classicism or if you bring that value.
Yeah.
I think people have, say, Shamangudi Mama had so much trouble with vocal.
Absolutely.
Right?
But he managed to create a padantram out of it. I mean, a whole Bani out of it. And it's one of the most sought after Banis.
Absolutely.
So obviously because it's the spirit behind the singing that has touched so many people.
So do you plan to ramp up your kacheri, or you probably are very busy with your other venture that you on the art side, right? The Rangalekha that.
No, I'm not necessarily thinking at wrapping up anything.
Yeah.
But I just feel that a musician needs to do what he or she wants to do without succumbing to
pressure,
social or career pressures or anything, which again is understandable in some ways. But I personally feel that every musician needs to decide for herself or himself what is it that they want to do. So that is one thing.
So you're
I love teaching too. And I love working with theatre, I love working with dance, which also I have done a lot.
Yeah.
So for me, music, being a musician is all these things. I don't see myself only as a Carnatic musician. I see myself dabbling with different kinds of genres and
so you don't want to be a Carnatic musician like.
It's not that I don't want to be. Again, it's not a conscious decision at all. It's just that I'd like to do these things, and by doing these things I'm being true to myself as a musician. That's all.
Okay. That's what brings your. So you have the autonomy to choose at the same time.
I would prefer to have the autonomy to choose and not get into one groove and thereby negate everything else about me. Correct. That is equally important to me.
I think that's great because I think the artistic license comes with this autonomy, and I think one doesn't have to fit into a certain
Yes, by saying
status
that
quo.
I am so and so,
Yeah,
you are actually cutting out so many things that you also are,
yeah.
right?
And I think I don't know if it is, we both met in Delhi. I still remember. Let's go back to that time, Subversion Enclave, 1980s, early
Yes.
1980s, and I think we had a fabulous time with Raghavan
Raghavan
sir.
sir, absolutely.
And he, you know what? I think he put into us the flavors of the ragams, even probably before we started learning any of these heavy or
Absolutely.
music.
Yes. Without understanding a thing about grammar, he taught us to enjoy music.
Absolutely. I think, why don't you sing? Do you remember the Shankarabaranam? Kala Neda Tanugade? Do you remember?
Kind of. I may not remember the words, but if you
I'll
sing it with me, then.
Yeah, I'll sing it with you.
Is this Shruti okay?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Kalanida tanugade kasini piravade kalanida tanugade kasini piravade shilagakliya tena mudai tarvaye shila agatya jnana tena mudai tarvaye malayana kariyone madhavari piriyane nal marai porulone Nagagiri Perumaye. I mean, Simple tunes.
simple tune, but it has that
But yes,
essence of
total
Shankara.
essence of.
So in fact, let me just branch off here because when I met Ravi Kiran sir, and of course he's your guru and he's your everything when it comes to music. He said this about Raghavan sir, that his contribution, he used that one word, is a monumental.
Totally monumental.
contribution.
Yes.
And I think now everyone knows, and when I see the forums on the internet, I think people related and associated with Carnatic music all respect him
Yes, for his absolutely, like Sir said, monumental
contribution.
contribution. And the beauty behind it is that he was so unaware of it.
Correct.
I don't think he ever had this self-perception of having contributed so much.
Absolutely. And it was...
If there was one musician I knew who lived for the beauty of music, that was him. With no strings attached.
And there's still people following him,
Thankfully.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. In their own ways, with that devotion and that spirit.
Totally.
So I think going back to our lives in Delhi, I think that's where we probably got either spoiled or we got pampered because we saw so many different things, the different foods. And I was reading this book by Ken Robinson on finding your element, where he actually says there are people's cultural backgrounds makes the brains wired differently. So maybe, I don't know, being a cosmopolitan, it's wired, or maybe it's weird. I don't know how people
Just
see.
a different spelling makes all the difference.
Yes.
Juggling the letters. Oops.
So yeah, we probably are weird. But I think that's what brings us all these different facets, and then we want to not be in a, stuck in a certain groove. I don't know, maybe I'm trying to justify it and wriggle out of the situation or something. But I totally understand that. So you were born in Bombay.
Yeah, and stayed there very briefly, barely 2 years, and then moved to Delhi.
And then when did you decide you have to do, I know you went to Ravi Kiran sir. When was it that you said, okay, you know what, I'm done with all this, I must stick with
Strangely enough, going to Madras and taking up music was not on my personal agenda ever. So I had my honors in psychology, and I was planning to do child psychology, go to Tata Institute of Social Sciences in Bombay. And pursue that field. But Ravi Kiran sir had stayed with us a couple of times when he came to Delhi to perform. When he was, of course, quite young, and I was a little girl hanging around. So I don't even have a recollection of that, except of him sitting in one room with his instrument, and me being instructed by my mother not to go anywhere near that room because I was exceptionally naughty. That's the only memory I have. But my parents really looked up to his traditional style and the fact that as a young, I mean, everybody knows him as a prodigy, but for that age and for the perception and the musicianship that he had. So it was just a feeling Amma had that I should go to a master like that. And surprisingly enough, one of my teachers in Delhi, O.V. Subramaniam sir,
Oh yeah.
he always used to say that I should go to somebody who belonged to the Brinda school. Now, at that stage, I had no clue, honestly, about. I only knew there was a musician called T. Brinda. I had never heard her music. I mean, of course, my mother had a couple of recordings, but I don't remember ever being aware of her style or anything like that. And I always used to wonder why OVS sir said something like that.
Yeah.
And of course, that again was not in my mind when I actually went to Ravi Kiran sir. I used to go down to Madras for the season, all during my high school and college. On my final year of college, I just happened to go to Ravi Kiran sir's concert and met him, and he asked me and my sister to go home to his place. We went the next morning and he asked me to sing, and of course, happily just kind of sang whatever that came into my mind. Thankfully, I had no awareness of who I was singing in front of at that stage. And Appo, he set me thinking by saying, why don't you actually try taking music up seriously? Give it a shot for 6 months or a year. If you're not happy with it, you can always go back to what you were thinking of doing. And of course, I had one session with him, went back the next day, and it was just a regular Akara Sadagam session and maybe a couple of songs. But that one session was enough to completely change my whole direction. I said, okay, I'm going to give this a shot. And truly, within 6 months of that,
You were a converter.
I came. I came to
Madras.
I came to Madras, and
This was 95.
95. Came to Madras and joined sir, and within 3 months there was no looking back. I knew I had found whatever I wanted to do, and I just continued after that with sir. That's all.
Wow. I think this is really, really great.
And I came with no intention of being a concert musician or a performer or anything like that. I just wanted to learn music the way he taught it.
And I think even now, I think that's probably how you're living too. I mean, you're not a typical. I don't think I would. Anybody can call you a typical concert musician. I mean, you find your zen singing at the Music Academy. I'm pretty sure you do that year after year, and of course, it shows in the appreciations and accolades that come your way. And I think you found your. So there is autonomy. There is a mastery that you've done, obviously, in all these years. There's a purpose behind it, I think, that you found. Expressing music in your own ways. Savita, it was really, really nice talking to you.
Thank you, Arun.
Yeah, this is sort of a formal kind of a thing. We do a lot of other rumble and all that. We should talk. But I think this was really, really great. So, guys, this was Savita Narasimhan, the musician, and we'll have another session one of these days. Savita Narasimhan, the artist. She's an entrepreneur and she has her own venture called
Rangalekha.
Rangalekha, and she has a lot of these articles that she started writing in the Hindu.
On Indian folk art.
So she does Madhubani, she does Warli,
Right.
all sorts of wall mural paintings. You can probably find them splashed around the internet, so check it out. But we'll have a little session about it maybe at some time later. Alright, so that was Savita Narasimhan signing off. Thanks a lot, Savita.
Thank you, Arun. It was great.
Great. Bye.
Bye.